fight, who's gone through the battle. Talked with him, a little bit about today and, what to talk about. And just really excited to share the story with you guys because he is a funny man. He is fantastic. He's got a great story. Mr. Tony Berg, how are you doing, my man?
Doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Believe it or not, I think so. I can hear you. Hopefully the masses can hear you. I honestly don't know.
We're already off to a good start then. Great.
Yeah. So before you jump in, Tony, and we get into your story, I want to show off the judges that we've got going on everywhere here. I'm just going to quick introduce them, if you don't mind. We got Sam Groth. Sam, hello. We have Jason Fritz. These two right here, you mentioned, Dave mentioned how our top performance over $1,000, how he's got. These two are beating him. These are our top two performers right here. These are the people that we admire, and especially on the fundraising. So you guys, a round of applause for all your hard work. We're going to live stream you guys eating chili in front of hundreds of people, okay? So not too much embarrassment. Filling out the rest of the panel, we got Doug Knutson. Doug rocking the MOvember hat and a mustache with a Pepsi. Bold choice. We got Maddie Larrabee rocking the iPad. Doesn't have a working laptop. She's the youngest one here, the most tech savvy. And Dad Lowe's got to bring the iPad out of the bag for her to use. So fantastic work. And then filling out the panel, we've got Dan Kruger as well. So Dan, looking good. Appreciate it. Love the fact that DSSI is able to let you go for a little bit. So I'm going to take them off, let them eat a little chili, and then we'll jump into Tony here and get your story. So Tony, you and I met somehow, some way, and it was through, I believe, a fun game of softball.
That's right.
Got to know you a little bit, and you are just one of the funniest men alive. I'm just going to say it right there. Just one of the funniest guys. You survived testicular cancer, and you are past the 5 years, correct?
That's correct.
So I want to ask you a little bit on your experience with how did it start, how did it go, and what made you get tested? Because the story that you told me yesterday was fantastic. So, you being a tough guy, let's hear it. What made you go in?
Yeah, I mean, I basically knew something was wrong, from like the physicality of just feeling pain in my body, the stories of pain in the lower stomach, like that dull sensation, but then also like visibly, there was something wrong with me. It's like, so it's something that you, as a guy, you don't want to tell anyone about it. You don't even want to go and see a doctor. I kept putting it off to the point where I was supposed to be doing an improv show. And I was in so much pain, before having to do the show that I just went and I did it. And then like the next morning, I ended up going to a walk-in clinic and was like, hey, I have a stomach pain because, you're in the lobby and all these people are listening, like what you're in the clinic for. So I ended up seeing a nurse there and was like, my stomach hurts. And then they brought in a doctor and I quickly was like, I'm going to pull my pants down and show you, what's happening. And she's like, you need to go to an emergency room like immediately. So then I drove myself to the emergency room and I walked in and I was like, I was sent over here from a clinic. There's something wrong with me. I have to, see a nurse or somebody, a doctor. So in that day, being at the emergency room, I sat with, nurses and eventually a doctor, but I had to get an ultrasound done on the tumor. And that was an interesting experience. Like the ultrasound people are usually looking for babies in pregnant stomachs, and it's like a nice experience.
And my wife just went through that as we had our first child back in January. That's not a warm solution that's getting put on the boy.
It was very cold. And they sort of warn you. Yeah, it's a weird goop. And like I said, like the person that's running that machine there, more or less the conversation is like, oh, you guys, their life is going to be changing. But this is, she's like, oh, wow, this is an incredible tumor. Your life is going to be changing. It was very obvious, that it was like a large lump. So 2 days after being in the emergency room, I met a urologist, or basically they set me up with one that had to, right away do surgery to remove it. Because at that point I was already at stage 2. So it's something that, was around for a while. So then, half-hour surgery, you're under, they remove the testicle. A couple weeks later, they find out that it is cancerous. And, with my situation too, it was very odd. I was starting a new job at the time. So I was like a month in at my new position and, messaged my boss and was like, I have this tumor, and she was very nice and was like, most tumors aren't cancerous. And I was like, this one is, so I'm going to be out of work for a very long time.
We won't throw that company under the bus. I'll say Direct Supply would definitely have your back on that one, though.
Oh, well, yeah, not to say that work wasn't wonderful to me, but just the idea of like, that was a funny way of trying to like keep me calm, to be like, people get tumors all the time. But yeah, this was a bigger one, than the run-of-the-mill tumor, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Yeah, so you get set up, you have to kind of shop doctors. I went to different hospitals. It's an interesting thing. I never really thought you'd have to do that, but I ended up going to, I don't know if I should say the hospital name.
Go ahead. Was it a good experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
All right, let's give him some free plug. Give it out. Here we go.
Yeah, so I went to Freighter. My doctor, Dr. Bilo, is awesome. They set me up with a 9-week chemo plan, and that was pretty intense. It was 3 weeks, and then it would be a repeat of the 3 weeks. So that was kind of how the medicine worked, and it was really powerful stuff. And then they keep reminding you, it's kind of fun. The doctors and nurses are like, you're a really young, strong guy, and I was like, yeah, I am. That's right.
Sure.
So, a lot of pat on the back, stuff like that. But I ended up losing my hair, lost my beard. That was a real bummer to me because I thought that my beard would, stick it out, but it didn't. But my eyebrows did. I kept my eyebrows throughout chemo. That was pretty.
I mean, I can tell you right now, Tony, if there's a facial feature that's worth keeping, it's those beautiful brows. I'm just gonna tell you.
The hairstylists are always like, you want me to trim those up? And I was like, no way. These things withstood chemo, so keep them.
Yeah, keep them as is.
Yeah. Yeah. So
one of the things we talked about, Tony, was going through that experience, putting these chemicals in your body to fight, the cancer. It's a long, hard fight, and for the ones out there that necessarily don't have the cancer but are having loved ones that are fighting it and going through the chemo, what can you tell them a little bit on just like what can they do to help that person?
So with me, and I'm sure most guys, they don't want to reach out and say like, hey, like I need help or whatever. It's I was telling people that I was comfortable sitting for 8 hours a day getting chemo by myself. I was like, I'm good. I was like, they've got TVs and stuff. And people were like, no, that's insane. You need to, visit with people. So you have to tell a patient, sometimes like, I'm going to do this, whether you like it or not. I'm going to sit with you for an hour and you're going to deal with it. And it was a nice thing because I feel like it was, not something I ever asked for, but it was something that was really welcomed when people did it. And even not even doing like physical stuff, just reaching out and saying like, hey, we're thinking about you. And, just being really real about it. Really awesome comments that people had were like, kick its ass, fuck cancer, all that stuff. And I love that. Sure. Because that's the reality of it. And and I think just reaching out and just letting like a message, because with this type of cancer, I guess it is sensitive, but I'm not the kind of person that, really wouldn't feel uncomfortable talking about it, but it's just a weird thing to have to navigate. So I would just say to reach out to people that are going through it, just to let them know that you're thinking about them.
Yeah. I mean, and it brings back that tough guy mentality that Dave mentioned a little bit at the start on trying to kind of nix, right? And that's what we're doing here with Men's Health is creating that awareness. And, you don't want to, it is a touchy subject, right? Because it is such a private part, but our saying here for MOvember is know thy nuts, and knowing them that something was going on, something hurt, something got you to the point where you had to go and get them checked out. That's what really helped. And I do appreciate you coming on, Tony. It's been how long now? How long have you been cancer free?
6 years. 5 years. I did have chemo 6 years ago, and then I had to have surgery to have tumors removed after 5 years ago. So 5-6 years out, let's say. Doing good.
And that's because you not only did the cancer, was in the testicular part of the region, but it spread to the lymph nodes. So, that early detection is key because it can spread, guys. And if you have that uncomfortable feeling, go and get checked. Go to a doctor. Follow Tony's words of wisdom here, and don't be that tough guy.
And
Don't
let
be
me
the
just say
guy.
too, like, don't go online and look for something that you think, because basically online is going to find like, oh, it could be something else other than cancer. And then you're going to look at that and go like, oh, it's not cancer then. Like you can basically go online and find an answer, or I should say your answer. So go and see a doctor, like no question about it.
Yes, online you can find whatever answer you want, and
Right.
my fantasy football team record reflects that as I might be jumping into the lake as last place punishment. So, Tony, thank you, my man. You are a legend. You are hilarious. Love that you're still with us, and even though that is grim, I mean there are times where that feeling starts to creep in, and we're glad that you're still with us today and being able to share this story. And thank you so much, Tony.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Good talking. Enjoy the chili.
Yeah, you got no chili in the game, so don't worry about it. All right, brother?
Yep, we'll see you.
All right, have a good one. So I want to give a quick shout out to the restaurants that we